Okay. Can you hear me and see my screen?
Yes, I believe I can. Yes, I'm sure everyone can. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so introduction to the Royal Navy careers. Okay. Okay, so why do we have the Royal Navy? Okay, so you've got preventing conflict, providing security at sea, international partnerships, ready to fight, protecting our economy, humanitarian assistance. Okay, so preventing conflict. Well, we ensure freedom on the world's oceans and with it, the stability of the nation. Okay, so a lot of trade comes through on the oceans, not just for the UK, but for the rest of the world. So they have to be kept clear and safe. Providing security at sea, we ensure the security of home and international waters, which is central to the stability and prosperity of Britain and the world economy. International partnerships. Okay, so we work with our allies and partners to help cement these partnerships our nation depends on. Ready to fight. So with the Royal Navy, we have, you probably don't hear much about the Royal Navy in the news unless something happens, which is newsworthy. But they call us the silent service. We do a lot behind the scenes, which I'll cover later on in this presentation. So with the Royal Navy, you could have a whole career where you may not actually be involved in warfare, but we do have a warfare aspect to us as well. So we maintain a state of readiness to protect the interests of Britain and our allies. Protecting our economy, we safeguard high seas trade routes that Britain depends on for 95% of the economic activity. Okay, so we're an island, covered, we've got water all around us. 95% of trade that comes into the UK comes in by sea, and that has to be protected. Okay, so you may not think that, you know, in this day and age we need protecting, but we do. Okay, so there are mines in the water from the Second World War that can blow up ships. So we have a thing called Maritime Trade Organisation that monitors those. We have foreign ships that are trying to come into UK waters and disrupt our activities, so we have to monitor those. So it's Royal Navy is very important for around the UK, but also around the world. Humanitarian assistance. Okay, so we're the first to respond to disaster strikes thanks to our ability to overcome adverse conditions. So we've got a thing called the Royal Fleet Auxiliary. They are a civilian part of the Navy. So they're military ships, they've got guns on, they're painted grey, but they are manned by civilians. They have a rank structure, they have a uniform, but they're civilians. But they will go around and they will carry disaster relief supplies, water, food, anything engineering-wise, anything that could help a disaster in some way. So if you see like the Commonwealth countries and other countries that might need to help, there might be a disaster in the world, a hurricane, and then there'll be the big Royal Fleet Auxiliary ships that will roll up, and they will supply support to those countries to get them back up and running effectively. Okay, so why do we have a Royal Navy? Okay, so 200,000. The Royal Navy repatriated 200,000 stranded nationals during the 2010 Icelandic volcanic ash incident. So in Iceland in 2010, when the volcanoes were spewing out lots of ash, pretty much a blanket over the whole of Europe. No one could fly because it was dangerous for the jet engines, for the ash in the sky. So they had to be repatriated back to the UK, and it's the Royal Navy that did that role. It's just one of the roles that we could be involved in. Okay. So fact number 2, 524 billion. So 95% of Britain's economic activity depends on the oceans. 17.3 billion tonnes of goods are imported into the UK every year, worth 524 billion. Okay, so as I said before, within the Royal Navy, there is a branch called MTO, which is Maritime Trade Organisation, and they will look after the shipping routes globally for all countries. Okay, not just the UK, for all countries. They will look after the shipping routes, and they will make sure they're clear from could be terrorism, could be a disaster, like an oil leak. You could have a big iceberg that detaches and it goes into the way of the shipping lanes. You could have mines. So certain parts of the world, they're still mining the seas to stop countries from operating in those areas. There's also a large amount of Second World War sea mines in the water, and they have to be blown up. So that's where Mine Hunter Squadron comes into place, and they'll go along and they'll blow those up. But the Maritime Trade Organisation needs to keep an eye on that. So, and that's why we also need a navy for the trade that we have here. So 524 billion. Okay, 240 million. Okay, 2009, the Royal Navy made its biggest drug bust, seizing approximately 240 million pounds worth of cocaine off the coast of South America. Since then, there have been other large-scale successes in the detection of drugs. This is a really important role. So you have the Royal Fleet Auxiliary ships and Royal Navy ships operating in conjunction with the Royal Marines, which are part of the Royal Navy, and they are there to restrict the flow of drugs coming in from those countries to other countries and also to the UK. Okay, so in that picture there, you can see two ribs, rigid hull, inflatable boats, the high speed, and you would have Royal Navy personnel that would drive those, and you'd have the Royal Marines that would board those ships and detect and find those drugs. Okay, what a lot of people don't realise is that because we are the Navy, people think that we're just at sea, but we are on land as well. Okay, so the Afghan War, Op Herrick 2001, it was actually the Royal Marines commandos that went into Afghanistan first. Okay, so before the Army, before the Air Force, it was the Royal Marines that went in first, and they deployed with the Fleet Air Arm. So the Fleet Air Arm are part of the Royal Navy. They're effectively the Air Force of the Navy. So they have fixed wing aircraft, fighter jets, and they also have rotary wing, which are helicopters. Okay, so they operated in the Afghan War. You had medics, logistics, the Air Arm, engineers, and also the Royal Marines. When you hear it in the news, you might hear the Air Force or the Army, but that is incorporating the Royal Navy as well. Okay. Okay, the services. So the services, we're made up of different segments in the Royal Navy. There's lots of opportunities available for people that want to join. Okay, so that picture there, you can see the Royal Marines at the very front of the picture. And then in the distance to the left, you've got a Royal Navy ship. In the distance to the right, you've got a Royal Fleet Auxiliary ship. And then at the top, you've got a helicopter, which is Fleet Air Arm. So I'm going to run through those services now with you. Okay, so you've got the surface fleet. So in the Royal Navy, the surface fleet, so that's the oldest branch, ships from bygone days. We have aircraft carriers, destroyers, frigates, mine hunters. There's lots of sort of ships we have now. So you can have a Korean surface fleet. You've got the submarine service. So that's submarines obviously go under the water, and they do lots of covert work that you never hear about, but they do an important role. So that's the submarine service. You've got the Fleet Air Arm, so that's the Air Force part of the Navy. So you've got fixed wing aircraft, which are fighter jets, and you've also got the rotary wing, which are the helicopters. Okay, so that's the Fleet Air Arm. I'll talk about that later on. Okay, you've got the Royal Marines, which is although the Royal Navy are fighting, they do have people trained on weapon systems in the Royal Navy. The people actually go out on the ground, leave the ship, and actually they might have to do a reconnaissance mission, or they may have to board a ship to look for drugs or for human trafficking, things like that. They will, it's the Royal Marines that will do that. Okay, so they are the soldier part of the Royal Navy. You've got the Royal Fleet Auxiliary. They are the support ships, as I said earlier on in this presentation. They're the ships that will carry the ammunition for the Royal Navy and for allies. they will carry the water, the food, disaster relief supplies, anything mechanical like spare engines. That is all carried by the Royal Fleet Auxiliary, and they will follow the ships around the world, and they will help out, obviously, the Royal Navy and our allies. Okay, so they're a support part of the Navy, and as I said before, they are a civilian part of the Navy. So you could spend a whole career in the Royal Fleet Auxiliary supporting the Royal Navy, but you'll be a civilian all the way through. And then the last part, the sixth service, is the Royal Naval Reserve and Royal Marine Reserve. So effectively, you can be part-time in the Royal Navy and part-time in the Royal Marines. You can study at university or at school. You have to be a minimum of 16. And you can do that role while you're studying, or you can do it while you have a full-time job. Then there's a certain commitment where you do a certain amount of days a year, 28 days a year. So you can have the best of both worlds. You can be in the Royal Navy or Royal Marines and still or be a student and or have a normal day job. Okay, so structure in the Royal Navy. Now, you've got two ways you can join. You can go in as an officer or a rating. Okay, so if I cover the rating, first of all, rating is doesn't hold the Queen's Commission. So there's a rank structure within a rating, and there's a rank structure within an officer role. So you'd start off as a new entry when you join, and then you would do your basic training, and you'll become a able rate second class. That means that you're still doing your training, your branch training, as it were, and then you would move into train strength once you've completed that, and you'll be able rate first class. Okay, and then you'll spend a period of time there, and then once you've got, you know how to do your job, you're qualified in your job, you've completed your apprenticeship, you can then move up the rank structure, and you'll be taught how to lead people and manage people, so taking on responsibilities. Okay, and you'll move up from able rate to leading hand to petty officer to chief officer, all the way up to warrant officer. You've also got the officer route. With the rating, some roles you do need qualifications, some of them you don't because they are apprenticeships. With the officer route, you have to have a minimum of 5 GCSEs, A to C, but you have to have a B in maths and English, and you need to have 96 UCAS points for a officer role. If you're going to go as a marine engineer, for example, or a surgeon, you need to have specific degree for that role. Okay, so there's two roles to go into, rating and officer. Rating, I would say, is at the coalface. You are doing the job on a day-to-day basis, whereas the officer role, you're more of a manager role. Okay, so you're managing those people and those departments. Okay, so what are the benefits? Okay, so for officer, so competitive pay. So you can earn up to 45,000 a year within 2 years of qualifying. Transferable skills and qualifications, 6 weeks paid holiday a year. Subsidised accommodation, help to buy scheme. Okay, so when you're in your role, just say 5-6 years in, you decide you want to buy a house. You'll get an interest-free loan from the government to help you buy that house. Okay, so you haven't got to save up for deposit. The government will actually give you an interest-free loan to pay for that property. Okay, and you do get preferential mortgage rates. Okay, so just think by joining the Navy, you could be based on ships and on basis on land, that you can actually buy your own property as well. Free medical, which everyone gets anyway, and free dental care, excellent pension. Okay, so when you retire, you can start drawing on a military pension at the age of 55, whereas normal pensions, I think they're around 65 for civilians. Okay. Okay, so officer progression and pay. So midshipman is the lowest part of an officer. So year one, you'll be on 25,000 a year whilst in training, and then after training, 30,000. As you get to sub-lieutenant, you'll be on 32 to 34,000, and then lieutenant, after 2 to 4 years, your pay will be between 39,600 and 47,000. I'd like to say also there are other benefits. If you're at sea, you do get sea pay. So there's a daily allowance it's added to the amount of money that you get paid as your salary. If you're in a dangerous part of the world, then there will be an allowance for being in dangerous zones as well. Okay, so you can make more money. The more sea days you have, the better your daily allowance for sea pay is. Okay. So rating. Okay, so competitive pay again is the same as before, transferable skills and qualifications, paid holiday, cheap accommodation. Okay, so it's the same before. You do get the government grant to help you buy property. Accommodation, you get access to cheap accommodation. Now, the good thing about being in the Royal Navy is that if you do an apprenticeship, you're guaranteed a job at the end, okay? Whereas not all apprenticeships in the civilian world, you're guaranteed a job at the end. But good thing about the Royal Navy, you are guaranteed a job at the end. You are part in the Royal Navy. Now, we do have an education department. So if you are in the Royal Navy, just say you need to get your GCSEs for promotion. The Royal Navy will help you get your maths, English, science GCSEs so you can get promoted to leading hand, for example. If you are, you have your GCSEs and you want to go for an officer role, the Royal Navy will pay for you to do A levels, and then you can go for promotion. If you want to get a degree, you can also do that as well. Okay, so everyone has an allowance, so you can further educate yourself in your career. So you could join the Royal Navy with no qualifications, and you could leave the Royal Navy with GCSEs, A levels, and a degree. Okay, so it's all down to you how much you want to put into it, but the money is there and the training is there for you. I would also say, even if you don't go into the Royal Navy as an officer, around 25% of our officers come from the rating role. Okay, so you could go in as an able rate, work your way up to leading hand, decide you want to go officer, and then get your qualifications, and then you can apply to go officer. You can go down that route as well. Okay, now with the ratings, progression and pay, it's 14,500 whilst in training, okay, and then 18,000 after training. So whilst in training is doing your basic training, which is 10 weeks, and then your branch training. Once you've completed that and your trained strength, you know how to do your job, it rises to 18,000. Okay, once you get to leading hand, you're on between 29,000 and 34,000. And petty officer, it should take you about 7 to 10 years. It's between 33,000 and 39,000. I'll just go back to that one moment. The good thing is, if it's for some roles, this is really good. If you're going to be decide you want to go in as a PTI, a fitness instructor, in the civilian world, unless you're really successful in a self-employed role in fitness, for example, teaching fitness, you're probably never going to earn that type of money. But the good thing about the Royal Navy is that because there's a promotion structure in place, the role that you choose, you can still earn really good money. So it's just a food for thought there. Okay. So Royal Marines, it's the same benefits as before. And it's the same for a rating. So this is, with the Royal Marines, they have a different rank structure. So it's the same as the Army and the Air Force. So Lance Corporal, Corporal, Sergeant. Okay, so same money as a rating for the Royal Navy, but the rank structure is different there. Okay, so life in the Royal Navy. So we spoke about the surface fleet. So they're the ships that are on top of the water, and you've got the aircraft carriers. That's an old aircraft carrier we don't have anymore. We've got bigger ones now. We have destroyers, we have frigates, mine hunters, survey ships. We survey the ocean because it's forever changing. And those charts are given to people or navies across the world. They use our charts. Okay, so you could be on a survey ship. You'll be on a sports ship if you are Royal Fleet Auxiliary. Okay, so surface fleet lifestyle. It's a working environment like no other. You eat, sleep, and work very closely with your crewmates day in, day out. Okay, every day is structured but different. Okay, so there's the role that you'll be doing. If you're as an engineer, for example, that you'll be doing that engineer role, then you'd have a secondary job. For example, if there was a fire on board, you might be trained as a firefighter to fight that fire as your secondary role, in addition to your primary role of being an engineer. Everyone in the Royal Navy is taught on how to rescue people, how to fight floods, and how to fight fires. Okay, so you have your main role on a ship or a submarine, and then you have a secondary role. Okay, so you could be, if someone falls overboard, you might be swimming with the watch, you might have to go and rescue someone, or you might have to fight a fire or fight a flood, or be a medic. There's lots of different secondary roles in addition to your primary roles. Okay, so that's why your days are structured, but every day could be different. Travel on the job training, constant features. Okay, so basically you can travel the world. I have traveled the world. Okay, so I've been to places that you probably couldn't even pay to go to. And you're with your friends, you make really strong ties with people when you're on board. So there literally is a work hard, play hard ethics in the Royal Navy. Okay, there's plenty of downtime whilst on ship and in port. So if you go alongside, that means you come into harbour. You might spend 2 or 3 days in America, for example. You get to go alongside, you get to go out, have drinks, you know. So there is an aspect of fun and travel mixed in with the work. Stay in touch with your friends. Okay, so it's like a friends and family being in the Navy. Submarine service. Okay, so they do covert stuff. Okay, so you don't hear about the Royal Navy submarine service that much. You do get a higher rate of pay, and there is a cash bonus for completing your training. Okay, it's around £5,000 bonus. So joining the submarine service takes a special type of person, because it's a special type of career. Okay, so you work very closely with your crewmates in your unique environment, ready for deployment at a moment's notice. The same as being on a ship, it is structured, but every day is different. The only thing I would say about the submarine service, whereas this in the Navy service fleet, you'll see the world. You can still see the world of submarine service, but you're covert. So you're doing all the sneaky beaky stuff that special services do that you don't ever hear about in the news. Okay, so there's a lot of covert special services built into submarine service. But the same roles are still available: engineering, chef. There's lots of different roles, communications. There's lots of different roles that are available to you. Okay, so just give you an idea of different roles that are available. There are lots of roles, too many to mention on this presentation. Okay, so you've got the surface fleet. Okay, so you could be an air engineer, that's officer, that's working on aircraft. Marine engineer, that's working on the actual ship or submarine. Weapon engineer, you're working on weapon systems. So it could be anything from a pistol to a rifle, right up to a missile system. Training management officer. Okay, so you could be in charge of the training for the ship or for the submarine. Submarine service, same as before: marine engineer officer, weapon engineer officer. And you've got the Royal Fleet Auxiliary, which I spoke about, which is the civilian side of the Navy. And the same roles are there. So you've got marine engineer officer, systems engineer officer, marine engineer cadet officer, and systems engineer cadet officer. So cadet officer, that's when you're a trainee officer effectively. When you are joining the Navy, you'll go through your training and you'll become a midshipman, which is a commissioned officer. With the RFA, you can join as a cadet officer. So you don't need all the experience and qualifications. You can still go as an officer. Okay, engineering rating. So surface fleet, communications and information specialists, CIS. Air engineering technician, so working on helicopters or aircraft. Marine engineer technician, working on the actual systems on the actual ship. Weapon engineering technician, so you'll learn how all the weapon systems work. And you've got direct entry petty officer. So if you've been in an engineering role for around 10 years in the civilian world and you have qualifications, you can direct entry into petty officer role. So you'll be on 33 to 39,000 straight away. Submarine service are the same roles as the surface fleet. And you've got the Royal Fleet Auxiliary Engineering Apprentice. So you can train to be an engineer in the Royal Fleet Auxiliary. Okay, engineering apprentice roles. Okay, so we do an accelerated apprentice role. So when you go and do engineering roles, aircraft engineer technician, for example, they are still apprenticeships. With the accelerated apprentice scheme, how it works is you need to have a level 3 diploma in engineering, and it has to be of merit level. You need maths, English and science level at grade C. Now, and you also have to have a certain amount of leadership experience. Okay, so you can get that from doing the cadet forces, the Air Cadets, Sea Cadets, Army Cadets, or you can get that within a part-time job or role within school. You might have taken on organised project for school. Looking for people with some kind of management or leadership experience, and you'll be accelerated through your career. Okay, so you'll start off on 33,000. So, for example, if you're 18 years old, you can start off on 33,000 as a leading hand. After 2 or 3 years, you'll be promoted to petty officer. After 2 or 3 years, you'll be promoted to chief petty officer. You're looking at 39,000, and then you're expected to go for an officer role. Now, the good thing about the accelerated apprentice scheme, it takes 2 years to qualify, but you do get a foundation degree at the end. Okay, so there is a foundation degree at the end of that. So that's the accelerated apprentice route. So you've got the normal apprenticeships where you'll go in. It might take you 2 or 3 years to get to leading hand, 3 or 4 years to get to petty officer. Accelerated apprentice, you start off at leading hand, and then you go to petty officer and chief petty officer. So, and you get a foundation degree. So it's an accelerated, it basically accelerates your career. And you also have that for the submarine service as well. Okay, so these are the rates of pay. So engineering technician, so that's the apprenticeship starting once you've completed your training, you're on 18,000 a year. For the accelerated apprentice, it's actually 33,000 now, but on there it still says 31,000. And undergraduate apprenticeship, that's if you're going to go to university to get a degree, and that's 31,000 as well. Okay, so you can see the pay there you can receive. Okay, so as I said, so a technician role is an apprenticeship. You don't need any qualifications. An accelerated apprentice, that's the one where you get accelerated through the rank structure. So you need, it's maths, English and science, you need a C, okay? So, that's an old money. So in new money, you need a level 4, okay? So level 4 in maths, English and science, GCSE, okay? And then a merit in a BTEC diploma, level 3, engineering diploma, okay? So different roles that are available to you. You've got logistics admin, okay? So service fleet, logistics. Logistics, they sort out the supplies of the ship. Could be food, ammunition. We do make our own water, but you have water supplies. Could be stuff for the galleys where the food's cooked. Alcohol, obviously there is alcohol on board. You have to obviously be 18. There's an allowance you get each day that you can drink. Medical supplies. You also have writers, so for pay, anything administrative, you have writers in there as well. Okay, so that's logistics and admin. Okay, so logistics, admin, rating. So surface fleet, and it's the same for submarine service. You have chef, hospitality, you could be a steward, HR administrator, so that's the admin for all the pay. You can see money there, or you get paid directly into your bank account, but you can draw money if you're going, to these different countries. And also supply chain, okay? So you can get, they are apprenticeships, you can get qualifications in those. So when you leave, you've got qualifications. Okay, so medical officer role. So the surface fleet, you've got dental nurse, dental officer, medical officer, environmental health officer, which is quite a new role, and nursing officer. Okay, medical rating roles. Okay, so you can be a rating. Some of these roles you don't need qualifications for. Okay, some of them you might need some work experience. Okay, so surface fleet, you've got dental hygienist, dental nurse, medical assistant, which is effectively the first aider on the ship, naval nurse, mental health, nursing officer, naval nurse, mental health. You can go as a student or qualified. Okay, so you can go as a student and get your degree and get your nursing qualifications. Biomedical scientists, that's quite a new one. Operating department practitioner, radiographer, okay, and medical and submarine surface, you've got medical assistant. So there's loads of roles available in the medical branch within the Royal Navy. Warfare officer key roles, okay, surface fleet, hydrographic and meteorology officer, warfare officer. Okay, so basically, hydrographic HM is called. That branch will look after the weather. So imagine you need to know the sea state. Sea state is the ocean. The waves can get bigger or smaller depending on the weather. Okay, got different sea states. You might only be able to launch a rib in sea state 2 or 3. Or just say, for example, you're doing replenishment at sea. That's when 2 ships come alongside each other and they send supplies across. You might need to be able to do that in a certain sea state. So the HM branch need to forecast the weather. Or just say you're on an aircraft carrier. You need to know, can we fly jets today? Can we fly helicopters today? Or is there bad weather on the way? So that's what they do. They advise the ship on the weather, what's coming up, what can they do operationally, okay? So warfare rating, you've got surface fleet, communications technician, seaman specialist. So, okay, I'm a seaman specialist. So I do I originally joined the Navy as an aircraft engineer on helicopters. I'm now a C-spec. So basically I drive the ribs. I help deliver the Royal Marines to board the ships to look for drugs and human trafficking, anchor party. Anything that how the ship runs is what the C-specs do. Okay, so it's a real hands-on. It's quite an exciting role within the Royal Navy. You're basically helping the ship to sail. Got hydrographic, as I said before, mine clearance diver. So you could be a diver in the Royal Navy, and you could dive down to the bottom of the ship, look at the propellers, for example. Something might be caught in them, or enemy forces could attach mines to the side of the ship, so you'll be going down there and you'll be clearing whatever needs to be cleared. Also, a role for the mine clearance diver is bomb disposal. Okay, so you'll be a bomb disposal expert. Mine warfare specialist, as I said before, in the oceans, there are lots of mines left over from the Second World War, and there's lots of other parts of the world where countries are still putting mines into the water. So your role is to keep the sea lanes free for mines. Warfare specialist is the weapon side of things and communications on the ship. You can also be a police person in the Royal Navy. Okay, so the police is open. Police used to be a sideways entry where you had to do a different role for a certain period of time, and then you could move over to the police. But now you can direct entry into the police. Okay. So Fleet Air Arm. Okay, so the Fleet Air Arm are the Air Force part of the Navy, and they will have helicopters and fighter jets, and you can have aircraft on aircraft carriers and destroyers and some offshore patrol vessels now. And so they will do reconnaissance, or they can ferry people on and off ships, okay? Or if you're on land, they could be helping with the fight against enemy forces. So it's quite a varied role with Fleet Air Arm. So it says here, Fleet Air Arm extends a global reach with state-of-the-art helicopters and fighter jets, providing highly effective air power at sea and from shore bases. The Fleet Air Arm suits people with a keen interest in aviation, from pilots and air traffic control to the team who supports them. So you can be a pilot, air traffic control, engineer, you can be an aircraft handler where you marshal the aircraft. There's lots of different roles within the Fleet Air Arm. Okay, so you've got air traffic control, air engineer officer, officer pilot, and you've got aircrew, observer, navigation, and weapon systems. Okay, and as a rating, you've got accelerated apprentice scheme, air engineering, I spoke about before. You can be an aircraft controller. So without the degree, you can be an aircraft controller on an aircraft carrier or on a Royal Naval Air Station. Air crewman, so you could be the machine gunner or the winchman on the helicopter. Aircraft engineering technician is the mechanics of the aircraft. Naval airman is aircraft handler, so you marshal the aircraft, but your secondary role is advanced firefighter. And you've got survival equipment fitter, which is where you make sure that survival equipment is stowed correctly and serviced correctly, like parachutes or life jackets, for example. Okay, so starting your career. So for some roles, so for officer roles, you need your 5 GCSEs, A to C, and you need a B in maths and English. You also need 96 UCAS points. So that's to join, okay? And then you'll go to BRNRC at Dartmouth, where you'll do your training, and your final test is called Admiralty Board, that you need to pass leadership tasks and interviews and presentations to become an officer, okay? So that's that route there, okay? And that's what I've said there. So you go to Britannia, Royal Naval College, and you'll do 30 weeks initial training. Once you've done that 30 weeks initial training to be an officer, you then start to do your branch training to whatever branch you've decided to go into. Okay, so for ratings, so there's around 45 roles for ratings. You'll go in as a new entry and you'll get able rates, and then leading hand. Basic training is 10 weeks at HMS Raleigh. They've just opened up HMS Collingwood for basic training as well. So you do 10 weeks basic training, and then you'll go on to do your branch training. Basic training comprises of making you militarised, okay, learning how to march, learning how to prepare your uniform, kit musters, learning how to fight fires, learning how to use weapons, teamwork, leadership. There's loads of different things you'll learn on your basic training, which is going to make you from a civilian to a military person. Okay, so as I said, 10 weeks basic training there. Okay, one of the biggest requirements to join the armed forces, the Army, Air Force and Navy, is the fitness. Okay, so everyone that applies to join has to be at a certain fitness level, and you have to have a robust fitness plan in place. Okay, so press ups, sit ups, burpees, sprinting, running. Now there is a pre-joining fitness test to join the Royal Navy, and you have to do a 2.4k run on a treadmill on a slight incline, and the times differ between age and gender. Okay, so just be aware that when you're looking to join the armed forces, you need to be fit. Okay, so fit to fight effectively. Okay, so how the basically the recruitment works is that you would get advice from myself or from the Armed Forces Careers Office to talk about what jobs you would like to apply for. Okay, once you've made up your decision, you put an application in, and then you have an assessment call to talk about why you've chosen that branch, and talk about your fitness and about your education. And then you have a recruitment test, just because every role in the Royal Navy and Royal Marines has a score. You have to get a score to achieve to say yes or no, you can't do that role. Once you've passed that, you'll then have an interview to join the Royal Navy. Once you pass the interview, you've got an eye test, a medical, security clearance, and then you'll be given an allocation date. Some roles take 6 to 8 months to get in, some take a couple of years. It all depends on the role you're going for, and if you're going for a rating role or if you're going for an officer role. Are there any questions?
Thank you very, very, very much. Andrew, let's have a look. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I'm just going to come
Lovely.
back to the home screen. Okay, yeah.
Thank you very much. That was really good, really informative. I'm sure everyone agrees. So we have a couple of questions here for you. One says, Shanai says, do you need to be able to swim?
You do have to swim. It's an requirement. There's a swimming test, a Royal Navy swimming test. I can tell you about that now. Okay, so basically, if you can't swim, you can't join effectively. You have to swim. Basically, that is because not that ships, apart from the Falklands War, which happened quite a long time ago, ships don't really sink anymore. They can do, obviously, but we haven't had an instance like that since the 1980s. Okay, but if, for example, a ship did sink, you'd have to be able to swim to a life raft. Okay, or for example, if you fell off the side of a ship, okay, and you didn't have a life jacket on, then you'd need to be able to keep yourself afloat while the swim of the watch comes to rescue you. So you need to be able to swim. You need to basically be able to swim 50 meters in the breaststroke and tread water for at least 2 minutes. So the pre-joining fitness test, or the swim test, would involve stepping off a 3-meter board, fully clothed, swimming 50 meters in the breaststroke in 4 minutes, treading water for 2 minutes, then getting out of the pool, so unaided. So you can't climb out the steps, basically. You've got to pull yourself out. You've got the strength to do that. And that's basically the swim test. And when you go through your career, there'll be different swimming aspects to it. There's a thing called Basic Sea Survival course where you'd have to, once every 4 years, you have to learn how to get onto a life raft and how to swim to a life raft. So there's a certain amount of swimming. You don't have to be really strong swimmer, but you need to be strong enough to be able to pass the swim test.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. I think you've answered this one again. I think Andrew's answered this, Sinead. Do you have to be fit and healthy to join?
You do. Basically, you have to, best thing to do is look at the Royal Navy fitness plan, download that on their website, it's a PDF. Follow that. You need to be able to do press-ups and sit-ups. There are female versions and male versions of press-ups, but press-ups, sit-ups, burpees, which are like press-ups and star jumps. You need to be able to do sprints, and you need to be able to do running. Okay, so we advise people they need to do 2 or 3 runs a week, starting off at 3 kilometers up to 5 kilometers. But you do need to be fit, and you do need to pass a medical to join as well.
Lovely, thank you very much. So the next question is from Faisal. What qualification do you need to become an air engineer technician?
To be an air engineer technician, you don't need any qualifications, okay? You can just apply. Now, before the COVID situation came along, you would have come to the Armed Forces Careers Office and you would have sat a 4-part recruit test, which is mechanical, maths, science, and reasoning. Now, we can still do those tests, but what we try and do first of all is look at your GCSE. So if you've got maths, English, and science, we grade you from those grades, and we'll try and get a pass mark from those. If you don't have those grades, then it doesn't matter. You can just sit the recruit test. Okay, so the recruit test is held twice a month at a Armed Forces Careers Office local to you. You can sit that test. If you pass, then you've got, basically, it gives you entry into the Royal Navy. You still have to pass the interview and the medical and the pre-joining fitness test, but that's your way in. You don't actually need qualifications for that role.
Thank you very much, Andrew. There are no questions, but I have a couple of questions.
Yep,
so in terms of the age group, so for example, if you have a child, because I have a child who is at the moment 11 years old, what could I do with my child now up to, I think you said the age of 17?
Yeah, so basically, with the Armed Forces, you've got the Armed Forces resources you can join from 15 3/4 up to 39, depending on the branch or trade you go into. But what you can also do is, and this is what really helps people when they're wanting to join the Armed Forces at a later stage in their life. If you join the cadets between the ages of 11 and I think it's 16 and a half, maybe 17, you've got the Air Cadets, you've got the Army Cadets, and you've got the Sea Cadets. And you can join those cadets. So you have a uniform, there's a rank structure, the same as the Armed Forces, but obviously it's run as a youth organisation. You get to do all the good things like going up in aircraft, learning to fly, learning how to shoot weapons, learning how to sail boats, learning how to do field craft and camping and discipline, learning how to march and prepare your uniform and iron. There's all these life skills that you'll learn in the cadets. Okay, so it's a bit like, I suppose, like Cubs or Scouts, but it's the cadets. So you get to go to military bases, you get to do all this training, and you can get qualifications out of it as well, and you can get like vocational qualifications out of it. You can also get Duke of Edinburgh's award. If you go for a job, for example, and they're looking for people with qualities of, look, you know, are you the type of person that could work as a team, for example? If you've got a Duke of Edinburgh's award, there's gold, silver, and bronze. If you've done that through the cadets, you can do it from the Scouts and youth clubs as well. But if you through the cadets, that's a really good opportunity. You can say to an employer when you're 16 or 17 years old, I've done the Duke of Edinburgh's award, or I've done this with the cadets. I know I am disciplined. I know how to look after myself. I know I'm, you know, you're fit and adventurous. So the cadets is it's a really good building block for later on. And people who want to join the Armed Forces full time, having that cadets background really helps them, because we always ask people, do you have any leadership and management experience? And people would say, yes, I do. I've been in the cadets and I've done this, this, and this. It can really, really help you.
Thank you so much. Some of our learners are from 14, obviously 14 to 19, and then of course there's also the adult learners. So in terms of the adults then, what were the age groups you said that you would recruit up to, and what about the service leavers, sorry?
Okay, so basically for joining the Royal Navy and Royal Marines, you can start your application at 15 years and 3/4. So that's around 9 months, 10 months. Okay. Now you can't join until, if you're a Royal Marine, you can't join until you're 16, 2 months, I believe. And for the Navy, it's 16. Depending on the role, some roles, for example, a pilot would be 26 years old. You can join up to. Some roles, like marine engineer officer, you can join up to 39. So it all depends on the role that you're going for. As a general rule, you're looking at 34 for most roles you can join up to. When you're in the Royal Navy, Royal Marines, you sign a 12-year contract. Okay, so you're in the Royal Navy for 12 years. If you decide for some reason, you think, right, okay, although I've signed a 12-year contract, I'm not prepared to stay 12 years, you know, you're going to get married, have kids, you don't want to travel anymore, or it's not right for you anymore, you can give 1 year's notice, 12 months notice to leave after you've completed 2.5 years of your role. Okay, so once you're in a minimum for 2.5 years, you can give 12 months notice to leave, and you can leave. But if you do stay for the 12 years, there is a resettlement package in place where you can retrain. So the Navy, and it's the same for the Army and the Air Force, if I'm honest, there's certain employers that will work with the armed forces, but you'll have a resettlement package, and the package will pay for your training. You could retrain to do another role. If you've been an engineer in the Navy and you want a particular type of qualification to do in the civilian world, you can have help with paying for that and retraining. Or just say you want to get a trade, for example, like a carpenter or plumber or something like that, you'll have training on it. Okay, so when you leave, you're leaving and going into another profession. Okay, so the Royal Navy look after you. That's the resettlement package. What I was also going to say was what I touched on earlier on about the reserves. You've got the cadets, so you can join as a child as a cadet. It's a youth organisation. You can do all the military stuff, but as a child, effectively. You can join the Navy full-time or the Royal Marines full-time, and you can have your full career, 12 years. You can extend for 5 years in increments after the 12 years if you so wish. But what some people do is they like the best of both worlds. So you can be in the Royal Navy and Royal Marines as a reserve, so you're part-time, but you can still do your day job, but you can still study, okay? The reserves are called upon, so around 20% of the reserves are called up at any one time to help around the world, and you can do the reserves full-time, so you could spend a period of time as a part-time reservist, and then there could be an opportunity for you to go full-time in the reserves. Okay, so there's an option as well. Good thing about that option is that you only sign 1 year full-time reserve contracts, and then after that time you can just give 4 weeks notice to leave, and you'll go back into a part-time reserve role, and you can go back to your normal job. Okay, so that you can dip in and out as much as you want for the reserves. So that's another option you could do. Some people join the reserves because if they are unsure if they want to do it as a full-time role. They may have no experience in the cadets, for example. So they join the reserves, really like it, and then they join full-time. Some people really like it, but realise that actually they want to have their civilian life and their military life. So with the Royal Navy, there's lots of different options. You can join full-time, part-time. You can do cadets before you join full-time or part-time. You can get apprenticeships. While you're in, you can do qualifications. And then when you leave, you get a resettlement package. Okay, so you're looked after all the way through your career.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's really informative. Thank you very much, Andrew. Okay. We don't have any more questions. So if anyone wanted to find out any more, what's the best website for them to go to?
Best thing to do is go into the Royal Navy website. If you want to join the Royal Marines or have information for Royal Marines, that is part of the Royal Navy. So everything's on the Royal Navy website. If you're interested in the Royal Fleet Auxiliary, still go to the Royal Navy website. So everything's on there. Read up about the roles that are available to you. Watch the videos. If you're on Facebook, there is a Royal Navy recruitment page on there. Shows you videos, gives you case studies on people who have gone through their training. And you can get good answers from there. There's 47 Armed Forces Careers Office up and down the country. So if you go online and look for, it's called AFCO, Armed Forces Careers Office, you can phone them directly and they can give you help. Or you can call a central line and they will help you as well. And if you want to apply, you literally just apply on the website, and then someone from one of those Armed Forces Careers Office closest to you will then call you, make sure the role you've applied for is right for you, and we can start the recruitment process.
Thank you so much. That's brilliant. We've got one other question from Lily, who says, is it hard to be away from home?
I would say people do feel homesickness. The younger you are, probably more you're going to feel homesickness. If you've not been away from home before, if you've always been on holiday with your family and you've never spent any time away from home, you may find it more difficult. And as with anything, with any job you do, if you, even as an adult, you know, in your 30s or 40s, you might start a new job and think, God, I'm out of place. Don't know anyone, don't know any friends here. And then after a period of time, you make friends and you settle in and it becomes normal. And it's the same for the military. So when you join the military, there's a certain amount of time when everyone's in the same shoes, you'll join, no one will know each other, everyone feels nervous. And there's team building exercises that are built into your basic training where it encourages people to interact and become more familiar with each other, I suppose. And it builds trust with each other. So you start trusting the people around you. When that starts developing, the homesickness will fizzle away. You won't have the homesickness anymore because you'll have really good friends with you in your basic training. So you can feel homesickness. Everyone can feel homesickness at some point. But having a good, solid friends around you, the Royal Navy is a family. Okay, so having that family, friends around you in the Navy really helps. And you shouldn't feel. You might feel homesickness at the beginning, but it will slowly ease. And as you get older and you gain more experience of being away from home, it pretty much disappears. Okay, so it's literally the initial stage of joining, and then after literally a few weeks, you should be okay.
Thank you very, very much, Andrew. Yeah, it must be really nice to be in a big family of diversity. How lovely.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, Andrew, thank you very, very much for your session today. It's been really informative. I'd like to thank all of our panelists. Thank you very much, all the attendees for coming. I'm sure you found it useful. And please do look on the site to see if there's anything else you'd like to watch for the National Careers Week. Thank you very much, Andrew. I'm going to say goodbye now to everyone. Thank you very much for coming. Really
lovely. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.